Hello there. Thank you for joining me. As we start a new series that looks back at some of the radical religious and social movements that swept through Australia in recent times. Whatever happened to the Orange people, or the sannyasins as they're now known, or the Christian charismatics, or the young volunteers who went on kibbutz? Who were they? Why did they join? And where are they now? All will be revealed in the coming weeks. And we start with the story of the Hare Krishnas and their impact here.
Excuse me, sir, what do you think of the Hare Krishna people you've just passed?
Because everybody can do what they want to, but it's not for me.
Because you're mad.
A lot of people joined because they were seeking truth, they were soul-searching and they were seeking something deeper.
The Hare Krishnas were young, full of energy and fuelled with a vision of a new type of spiritual life.
Hare Krishna philosophy, Hare Krishna food, Hare Krishna clothing. There was no world outside Hare Krishna. That's all we knew.
We were meant to be chosen children, actually, because to be born into a Hare Krishna situation was considered to be a blessing.
So who were the Hare Krishnas and where are they now?
You don't have to walk around with a bald head and tilak and robe to be a Hare Krishna.
People say, oh, okay, so not all Hare Krishnas are hippies running around the hills. And it's no, they're not. They're pilots and they're lawyers and they're doctors and they're teachers and they're nurses.
For the past 30 years, this property in northern New South Wales has been home to the biggest Hare Krishna farm community in Australia. They came here to create a world away from mainstream society, devoted to Krishna consciousness. Chandra moved here with her parents when she was 8 years old.
It was a pretty amazing experience. I don't think there are many kids who have had that kind of a start in life. Colour, a lot of music, a lot of festivity. Growing up, we were really raised by a society rather than individuals.
Life was isolated. The children lived in the boarding school on the farm, without their parents.
There's pros and cons. There was probably not a lot of nurturing. There wasn't. You had to learn to be quite strong to survive, and I was a really strong girl, so I could manage quite well. I was very eager to please all the adults because it was sort of the only way of getting much recognition. If you did well at chanting, you did well at service. When you're the only one looking out for you, because you don't have your parents there, so you have to learn how to navigate people.
It was a disciplined life on the commune. The day began at 3:30 a.m. with chanting.
It was a 6-day school. We did academia every day from 9 till about 1, had lunch and then went to the river. It was a lot of fun. We all lived in the ashram. Back in that time we had fields and fields of flowers. So every day we would pick them, gather them, make the garlands for all the deities. I can remember very clearly the music, the songs, and from the moment I got there, I really didn't ever want to leave.
The local town of Murwillumbah was initially suspicious of the new arrivals, but the media found them fascinating.
Even when they're relaxing in the material world, the Krishna kids can never forget the spiritual. But the adults have, of course, chosen to be Hare Krishnas. Their children have had no choice. They've been born to it.
TV cameras had come in and do shows on us, and newspapers, a lot of PR.
Who can tell me who Krishna is?
God, the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
We children were shoved in front of the cameras to say, look, these happy, bright children, which we were to a degree. We were perfect PR.
Dara was a few years younger than her friend Chandra.
One thing that happened is we kept changing our names. My sister and I would come to the temple every week with a different Hare Krishna name. So one week I was Chitralekha, another week I was Rukmini. And finally I came across the name Dara in a Krishna book. That's the one for me. Non-Hare Krishna names were quite embarrassing to us as kids, and even the adults. My mother reminds me sometimes that to talk about your Kami name, your non-Hare Krishna name, was quite an embarrassing thing because it spoke of an identity that was not part of what was going on, I guess. When it came to the community, they were really trying to mould us, and quite self-consciously. There was no point at which they tried to cover that. They really believed that was the right way to go, to try and turn us into perfect young Hare Krishna people that would go on to be exemplary Hare Krishna adults.
The Hare Krishna movement in the West was born in the 1960s at the height of the youth revolution. A 69-year-old Indian Swami dressed in orange robes arrived in New York City. His name was Srila Prabhupada, and he had come to spread Krishna consciousness to the world. Mukunda Goswami, or Michael Grant as he was known back then, was one of his first disciples.
It was a very dingy room. He was lecturing.
Actual identity as part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, Krishna.
It was a very incongruous scene because he looked very distinguished, and the people who were listening were kind of like hippie-like.
New devotees flocked to hear this learned Swami giving lessons about an ancient Indian religion.
The thing that I remember about the philosophy was him saying, "I am not this body." And I thought that was a really good line, so to speak. But I thought, well, I don't think that way. But if he thinks that way, if he believes that, that's the first time I've ever heard anyone say such a thing. And that phrase stuck with me. I am not this body.
Within a few months, Prabhupada had registered this fledgling movement and called it ISKCON, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Within 2 years, the movement had established temples in San Francisco and Los Angeles. Next stop was London, where Mukunda and the devotees actively sought out celebrities.
From that point on, we started, trying to meet a lot of important sort of people. The Beatles were the celebrity of the world at the time. It did have a good effect, and it taught us that it's not what you know, it's who you know.
George Harrison, already interested in Eastern spirituality, in fact sought them out.
We didn't invite him, he just turned up one day. I was one of the Hare Krishnas that he really liked. The fact that we were both musicians had a lot to do with it. And he didn't like everybody, but I was kind of a friend of his, and he trusted me, and we had some good conversations.
With a little help from their new friends, the movement gained fame worldwide. Its founder, Prabhupada, visited Australia as temples were set up in Sydney and Melbourne.
I met a devotee who gave me a card. It was an invitation to the Sunday feast, and it said, chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, and make your life sublime, or something like that. And I took that card home and stuck it on my pin-up board.
Annie Ruder was the eldest of 4 boys. Raised an Anglican, he grew up in Adelaide in the 1960s.
I was a really bit of a no-hoper until I met the devotees. When I was 15, 16, and people would always ask me, what are you going to do when you grow up? And I think, what the hell? I don't know. It wasn't, and I felt like a cog, in a machine that was just basically grinding you into, paste. I didn't feel very happy about what I was doing. And it wasn't until I met the devotees that things started to make sense for me.
Hare Krishna teachings are rooted in Indian Hindu culture and date back more than 5,000 years. They embrace a single god, Krishna. They are strict vegetarians and believe that chanting the Hare Krishna mantra is a way of attaining a rapturous connection with God.
To be an initiate is quite strict. You have to follow what we call the regulated principles. There's no meat eating, no gambling, no intoxication and no illicit sex. And you have to chant 16 rounds of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra every day, which is a 2-hour, pretty much for everybody, a 2-hour commitment. And it also means rising early and pretty much trying to dedicate all of your activities to service to God.
In 1977, the movement suffered a devastating blow. Their beloved leader and founder of the Hare Krishna movement, Srila Prabhupada, died.
Prabhupada's dying was one of those unthinkable things, because he was the guru, he was the CEO of the institution, and then one day he was gone.
ISKCON by now had over 100 temples, dozens of farming communities, restaurants and schools around the world. But with its leader gone, the organisation would struggle with ongoing succession problems. Back in Murwillumbah, Chandra and Dara were now old enough to go to the local high school in town.
It's not that we didn't make friends with non-Hare Krishna kids, because we did. But there was a profound sense that we were from another place and part of a different life.
Today, Chandra is back living in Murwillumbah, where she runs her own business.
We didn't understand mainstream culture. We didn't know music, we didn't know movies, we certainly didn't know how to dress. We knew how to wear saris, but as soon as you put, I remember the first time I went to high school, I pulled my socks up. Now it's probably in fashion, but at that point it wasn't. But I didn't know, I'd never worn socks before.
Oh, and I took Weet-Bix to school. I just didn't know if you didn't have a sandwich. I once took Weet-Bix and some milk.
With a bottle of milk. She'll never
That
live
was
it
just
down
social
to-
suicide.
On the farm, Dara and Chandra were growing into young women. But the experiment of transplanting a conservative, devotional Indian religion onto a modern Western society was presenting unexpected problems.
We were severely shamed for having any kind of sensual behaviour, even if it just meant eyeshadow. You know, it was just really, really shut down and shunned. And that was a really hard transition, going from being a little kid, innocent, to, okay, all these natural, my body's changing, but they didn't know what to do with us. They just didn't know what to do with us.
There seems to be a certain place for a woman here to hold. Aren't you very much told what to do as a woman in the Hare Krishna movement?
No, we're not told what to do. We just accept a position as serving our husbands nicely. And also
The role of Hare Krishna women in the movement was from another time and place. The most young girls could aspire to was cooking, sewing, marrying early, and being a good wife.
I guess they imagined that there was going to be a place for us to slot into, but the place never really existed. The horses really ruined it for me in that sense. It gives you an enormous sense of freedom and being submissive and cute and cooking with your hair covered. Not for this girl.
It was interesting and hard when we discovered that there was a whole world out there that wasn't all that bad, because we were taught that everything was pretty much evil except us. You know, it was all bad, terribly bad and scary and polluting and dangerous and horrible. So, you know, there was fear there. It was like, you know, were we protected or were we just isolated? I don't know.
Danielle, or Damodar Priya, had quite a different experience as a young Hare Krishna. She was 12 when her family moved to the farm, So she went straight to the high school outside the community in Murwillumbah.
I was a very public Hare Krishna. I had this propensity to argue and to talk, and also to be very bold. That was my quality, because I wasn't scared of anyone. People were ashamed to admit that they were Hare Krishnas because they thought people might pick on them or we were different, but I never felt like that. I felt very strong, and it was quite funny because I was the school captain at the local public school, and we were doing a Hare Naam. If everyone, I think, has seen a Hare Krishna running around doing these ones, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. And I remember a kid being in the crowd going, "Mum, that's my school captain." In retrospect, I think I still got the benefit of being associated with the community and learning those things while still keeping one foot in the other world.
Now 33, Danielle lives on the Gold Coast with her non-Hare Krishna husband, Chris. Tonight, they're hosting a dinner and prayer night for local devotees.
How many are you expecting tonight?
Chandramukhi's definitely coming. Tweed Chandramukhi might be coming. Mohini and her kids are coming.
Oh, good.
Just your usual, honey. That's what happened when you married a Hare Krishna. You have to cook for 20 people for dinner.
That's right.
Danielle's guests don't belong to ISKCON, and neither does she anymore. At 17, Danielle chose to follow a visiting guru from India, Srila Narayan Maharaj, one of the leaders who emerged after Prabhupada's death. This caused a split at the farm. Danielle and other initiates of the Indian guru were asked to leave.
That was very difficult at first. We'd grown up on that farm out at Murwillumbah, and that was our childhood. And then, for reasons that were kind of beyond our conception, there was a little bit of politics, and we couldn't go there, and it was just a little odd.
Internationally, the movement was struggling to cope with life after Prabhupada. A number of disciples had been appointed as gurus to fill the void. They were to preach to different parts of the world. But the new system was to implode quite spectacularly over the next 10 years, as guru by guru fell from grace.
There were people that got drunk on power because they were young, and as has been mentioned, they're just human beings, and they have the frailties. You may have to make a vow that there's going to be no intoxication, no meat eating, no illicit sex. It's a very difficult thing to subscribe to for a lifetime. To be above those frailties requires a very special commitment, a very extraordinary commitment.
Even the farm at Murwillumbah was about to be rocked by its own crisis.
In 1986, as far as I remember, there was a big festival for Vishnupad, who was the guru of most people in the community. And then shortly after that, it was discovered that he wasn't living the life of a celibate as he'd vowed to be, and then perhaps he wasn't, a directly empowered representative of God if he wasn't able to maintain that standard. And there was a crisis of faith for many of the followers after that was revealed. It was tumultuous for everyone. It was hugely tumultuous because, people imagine their spiritual path to be very much tied up with this person, and then he was gone.
In the 80s, when everything started to come out, this temple here was like a ghost town. So I think a lot of those people felt very let down and ripped off when they realised that the people that are in charge, some of them were quite corrupt.
The 90s proved to be the most difficult time for the Hare Krishna movement worldwide. Reports of physical, emotional and sexual abuse emerged in Hare Krishna boarding schools in India and the United States.
Yeah, there was a lot of really heavy, awful stuff that went on, but not in our Australian school. Our Australian school was, I would say, kept to a really high standard in that sense that we were very fortunate.
children of the first generation of Hare Krishnas in Australia are now adults. Their lives are very different from their parents. Danielle, bold and forthright as a child, was encouraged by her guru to direct her strengths into a legal career.
You know, my guru said, oh, you should be a lawyer because it's good training for you to educate and argue and discuss philosophy. And then all of a sudden I had this full scholarship to Bond University. And then all of a sudden there's a full scholarship to Cambridge.
After graduating with honours from Cambridge, Danielle now lectures at university on the Gold Coast.
Okay. At the end of last week, we moved on to executive power. Now, executive is just a fancy word for what we all call... It's actually funny when you're doing something for spiritual reasons, you do actually find that the way gets paved for you. So, I mean, for me, I just think it's a complete fluke the way my life has worked out.
So once again, please welcome Gauravani and the Mayapuris.
Once a year, the second-generation Hares from all over the world come together to showcase their talents. And this year, they've come to Murwillumbah. Chandra is a fashion designer, fusing high-end contemporary pieces with strong Indian influences.
I've always had a fascination with clothes. I like to play with colour, feathers, style, a little, think John Galliano, Vivienne Westwood, a little bit over the top. So it's kind of like Indian village meets contemporary. We're quite an opulent group of people, like we're really into lush texture, colour, flowers, incense.
Today, the movement is steadily growing again. There are restaurants in all the major cities in Australia and temples serving weekly feasts to the needy. Books are still being sold and they're back on streets again, entertaining the crowd. In Murwillumbah, Dara is balancing study and motherhood, raising her daughter Jyoti. For this little one, her feet are placed firmly in both worlds.
Watching? I'm watching. Ah.
One more?
Okay. For her, there's much that's fun and light and sweet. She loves going to the temple and she's just a real little chanter. She's always bowing down. I think, no, what have I done? Insofar as what I want to give her, I would like to give her access to the parts that I feel are positive and good and spare her the kinds of things that were confusing to me as I grew up.
For many of those who grew up in that early community, the pull to return can be irresistible.
This has always been home for me. I've always hankered for these hills because I spent so many solid years there as a kid. Like, even just driving, every time I drive over the bridge, you know, up the hill, it's like, yeah, the lotuses, the peacocks. The Hare Krishna children that were involved in the very experimental time of the early 80s, there was a bit of a gap. There was a bit of a time where most of us wanted nothing to do with the temple because we saw too much hypocrisy and a lot of letdown. And then I think we healed a lot, we forgave, there was a lot of forgiveness. And I think, yeah, so the bitterness sort of died and we were able to go back as adults.
Once the domain of the men in the community, today Chandra and her daughter Kalyani and son Karmadev lead the kirtan, the devotional chanting.
It's very powerful for me when I see my children involved in the prayer and meditation the same way. That moves my soul. When I see my children moved in that same way, I think, wow, that's really, really special.
It's really nostalgic for me to, after all these years, to go back to the temple and the farming community and look at that beautiful temple. Because I spent a lot of time there as a child, I do really enjoy going back there to celebrate big festivals. So it's like Christmas. Hare Krishna Christmas, you could say.
There's really so many different stories for Hare Krishna people, even though from the outside they might all look fairly similar. If you tell someone that you're a Hare Krishna or grew up with Krishnas, they might expect that you're going to be dancing down the street. And people have a pretty limited image of what that means, and that's just really not the case for the vast majority of us, I think, especially the second generation. I have a relationship with this thing in many ways that kind of crosses lots of boundaries. It's a social thing, it's a cultural thing, and it's also something that has quite a hold on my sense of self.
I cannot imagine being without it. I can't. It would be empty. For me, Krishna's God. He just is. You ask me what God's like. God's blue and he plays a bamboo flute.